Commander Zekthar stood tall in the center of the great war room. His forearms moved as he spoke, pointing at the glowing map that floated in the air before him. The blue and green planet looked so small and weak, compared to the mighty worlds that the Zephrian Empire had taken over the years. "Look at this world," Zekthar said to the other military leaders sitting around the long metal table. "The creatures that live there call it Earth. Our spy ships have been watching them for many months now. They are nothing special, just another weak race that has barely learned to fly between the stars." The room was filled with the Empire's best warriors and smartest war planners. Each one had helped conquer dozens of worlds. They had destroyed entire civilizations and made whole star systems bow down to the Empire's power. To them, this small blue world seemed like just another easy target. Admiral Vexith leaned forward in his chair. His three eyes glowed bright yellow as he studied the floating image. "Tell us more about these humans, Commander. What kind of weapons do they have?" Zekthar's mouth twisted into what might have been a smile. "Their weapons are laughable, Admiral. Still use explosives made from simple chemicals. Their biggest guns shoot pieces of metal at slow speeds. Some of their ships still use nuclear power instead of proper energy cores. They are at least 300 years behind our technology." The other commanders around the table made sounds of amusement. General Kexmel, who had led the attack on the Altarian worlds, shook his massive head. "Are you telling us they still use nuclear weapons? Like children playing with fire?" "Yes, General. Our scouts watched them test these weapons on their own world. So they actually poison parts of their own planet with radiation. They are clearly too stupid to be a real threat to anyone." Admiral Vexith tapped his clawed fingers on the table. "How many ships do they have in their fleet?" Zekthar pulled up another image. This one showed the human ships that had been spotted near their home world. Perhaps 200 vessels at most. Most of them are tiny patrol ships that could not survive one blast from our smallest guns. Their biggest warships are smaller than our escort ships. They have no real military force to speak of. The war room erupted in laughter. These Zephrians had just finished a 20-year war against the Altarian Confederation. Altarians had controlled 43 worlds and had weapons that could crack moons in half. They had energy shields that could stop entire fleets and guns that fired pure plasma. Even they had fallen to the Empire's might. These humans seemed like nothing more than an amusing break from real warfare. "What about their numbers?" asked General Mortex, the Empire's expert on ground warfare. "How many of these humans are there?" "Only about 8 billion on their homeworld," Zekthar replied. "They have some small bases on nearby moons and rocks floating in space, but nothing important. No real colonies, no other worlds under their control. Everything they have is centered around this one small planet." Admiral Vexith stood up from his chair. At full height, he was nearly 10 feet tall, his body covered in the scars of 100 battles. "This is almost too easy. We have conquered races with 10 times their numbers and 100 times their technology. These humans will surrender the moment they see our ships." "Should we send the full First Fleet?" asked General Kexmal. "We could glass their entire world in one day." Vexith waved one of his arms dismissively. "That would be wasteful. We need their world intact for mining operations. The planet appears to have good mineral deposits. Send the Third Fleet instead. 60 dreadnoughts should be more than enough to handle 200 primitive ships." Zekthar bowed his head. "It will be my honor to lead the mission, Admiral." "Standard conquest protocol?" "Yes. Arrive in their system, demand their surrender, destroy any ships that resist, and establish control zones on their world. If they are smart, they will give up without a fight. If not, we will teach them why the Empire rules the galaxy." What none of these proud warriors knew was that humanity had been watching them for months. Far out in the cold darkness beyond Earth's farthest planet, Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison sat in a small observation post built into an asteroid. His job was to watch for exactly this kind of threat. The post was hidden so well that even the Zephrian scout ships had flown right past it without noticing. Jake and his small team had been recording everything the alien ships did. Every scan. They made every transmission they sent, every movement they made through the solar system. Jake's fingers moved quickly over his control panel as he prepared to send an urgent message back to Earth. The alien ships were finally leaving. heading back to wherever they came from. That could only mean one thing. They were going to bring back a bigger force. "This is Outpost 7 to Earth Command," Jake spoke into his communicator. "The bogies are heading home. Repeat, all alien scout ships are departing the system. Recommend immediate activation of all defense protocols." The message traveled through space at the speed of light, reaching Earth's orbital defense stations in just over an hour. Admiral Lisa Carter was in her office aboard Haven Station when the message arrived. She had been expecting this day for months. Ever since the first alien ships had been detected, Carter was a veteran of the Mars colonial wars and had spent her entire career preparing for the possibility of alien contact. She had always hoped it would be peaceful, but she had also prepared for the worst-case scenario. The defense plan she had helped create assumed that any alien species advanced enough to travel between stars would also be advanced enough to destroy human civilization. "Get me General Paul Rogers at Strategic Command," Carter told her aide. "Tell him we need to implement the Pandora Protocol immediately. And contact President Davis. She needs to know that our visitors are probably coming back with friends." The Pandora Protocol was humanity's most secret military plan. It had been developed over 30 years by the best military minds on Earth and Mars. The plan was simple in concept, but terrifying in its scope. If humanity was ever threatened by an alien invasion, they would turn their entire solar system into a weapon. Every asteroid mining station would become a missile platform. Every space habitat would become a fortress. Every piece of space debris would become a potential projectile. The plan required the cooperation of every human government and military force, but it would turn the solar system into a death trap for any invading force. General Rogers received the message at his underground command center in Colorado. He had been waiting for this call for 15 years. The Joint Chiefs of Staff had wargamed this scenario hundreds of times. They knew exactly what needed to be done. "Activate Pandora Protocol," Rogers ordered. "Send the code to all commanders in the system. Military vessels are to disperse to predetermined positions. All civilian traffic is to be cleared from the outer planets. Mining stations are to begin conversion to weapons platforms immediately." Across the solar system, secret military installations came to life. Its ships that had been disguised as cargo haulers revealed their true nature as warships. Asteroid mining stations began installing the weapon systems that had been stored in their hidden compartments for years. The entire human civilization began preparing for a war that would decide the fate of their species. Back in the Zephrian Empire, Commander Zekthar was already planning his victory celebration. He had no idea that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their numbers. It was their ability to learn from their mistakes and prepare for every possible threat. The Zephrians were about to learn why you should never underestimate a species that had spent its entire history fighting wars against itself. They were about to discover that sometimes the smallest and weakest-looking opponent can be the most dangerous one of all. The war was about to begin, and only one alien would live to tell the tale of what happened when the mighty Zephrian Empire decided to attack the humans of Earth. 3 months after the alien scouts had left, the Zephrian Third Fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system. 60 massive warships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their black holes gleaming against the stars. Each ship was over 2 miles long and carried enough firepower to destroy entire cities, Commander.
Aye!
Zekthar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Glory, through the massive viewing windows. He could see the small yellow star that the humans called the Sun. Somewhere in this system was the primitive world that would soon become the newest addition to the Empire. "Report," Zekthar ordered his sensor officer. Long-range scans showed the system as quiet, Commander. No large military formations detected. Humans appeared to have pulled most of their ships back to their home world. Typical defensive behavior. From a frightened species, Zekthar nodded with satisfaction. The humans were already showing fear, clustering around their planet like children hiding behind their parents. This would be even easier than he had expected. "Open a communication channel to the third planet," he commanded. "Let us give these humans a chance to surrender before we destroy them." The communication beam reached Earth in minutes. In the underground war room beneath the White House, President Helen Davis stood surrounded by her top military advisors. She had been president for 6 years, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. The first contact with an alien species, and they were demanding Earth's surrender. Primitive inhabitants of the third planet, Zekthar's voice filled the room, translated by computers that had been analyzing alien transmissions for months. I am Commander Zekthar of the mighty Zephrian Empire. Your world has been chosen to join our great civilization. Surrender now, and your people will be allowed to live as workers in our empire. Resist, and your entire species will be destroyed. Room fell silent. President Davis looked around at her advisors. General Paul Rogers stood at attention, his face showing no emotion. Admiral Lisa Carter was watching the tactical displays that showed the positions of both human and alien ships throughout the system. This is it, Davis said quietly. The moment we've been preparing for, General Rogers. Are our forces ready? Yes. Madam President, all units are in position. The Pandora Protocol is fully active. We can begin operations on your order. Davis walked to the communication console. She had practiced this moment many times, but her hand still shook slightly as she activated the transmitter. The next words she spoke would either save humanity or doom it. This is President Helen Davis of the United Earth Government, she said, her voice steady and clear. I am responding to your message, Commander Zekthar. We have heard your demand for surrender, and our answer is simple. Come and take it. The transmission ended, leaving both sides in tense silence. On the bridge of the eternal glory, Zekthar stared at his communication console in disbelief. In 300 years of conquest, no species had ever refused the Empire's offer of peaceful surrender. These humans were either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Commander, his communications officer said nervously, perhaps they did not understand the message. Should we send it again? Zekthar's forearms clenched into fists. They understood perfectly. I've chosen death over wisdom. It's very well. Signal the fleet to advance. We will show them what happens when primitive species defy the Empire. The Zephrian fleet began moving toward Earth, their massive engines creating streams of blue light in the darkness. They maintained perfect formation, just as they had during the conquest of dozens of other worlds. The formation was designed to inspire fear in their enemies and demonstrate the Vestor's Empire's military discipline. What the Zephrians did not know was that human sensors had been tracking their every move since. The moment they arrived, hidden observation posts throughout the solar system were recording the alien ship's energy signatures, weapon configurations, and shield frequencies. Every piece of data was being analyzed by the most advanced computers humanity had ever built. Captain Ryan Walsh floated in the cramped bridge of his ship, the Wraith. The vessel was hidden inside a hollowed-out asteroid in the belt between Mars and Jupiter. To alien sensors, it looked like just another piece of space rock. But inside the asteroid were some of humanity's most advanced weapons and a crew of volunteers who had trained for this mission for years. Contact Earth Command, Walsh ordered his communications officer. Tell them the fish are swimming into the net. All hunter units report ready. Throughout the asteroid belt, dozens of similar ships were hidden inside rocks that looked completely natural. Each ship was equipped with experimental stealth technology and weapons that had never been tested in real combat. The crews were all volunteers who knew they might not survive the coming battle on Earth. Admiral Carter watched the tactical display in the orbital command center. Red dots showed the positions of the alien ships as they moved steadily toward Earth. Green dots showed the hidden human forces scattered throughout the system. Blue dots marked the defensive positions around Earth itself. They're taking the bait, Carter said to her staff. They think we're all clustered around Earth like frightened animals. They have no idea what's waiting for them. The Zephrian fleet continued its advance, growing more confident with each passing hour. Their sensors showed no sign of human military activity in the outer system. A few small ships had been detected near the gas giant planets, but they appeared to be civilian craft fleeing the advancing alien fleet. Status report, Zekthar demanded as his fleet reached the halfway point between the outer planets and Earth. All systems normal, Commander. No enemy contact. The humans appear to be offering no resistance outside their immediate orbital area. Their ships are concentrated in a defensive formation around their world. Zekthar studied the tactical display. The human formation looked pitiful compared to his own fleet. Perhaps 50 ships at most, arranged in a loose sphere around their planet. They would be destroyed in minutes once his dreadnoughts came within range. "Maintain current speed," he ordered. "We will be in weapons range in 6 hours. Prepare for battle, but I doubt the humans will put up much of a fight." But hidden throughout the system, humanity was preparing to demonstrate why they had survived and thrived on one of the most dangerous worlds in the galaxy. Every human military tradition, from ancient Earth warfare to modern space combat, had been built around one central idea: use every advantage, exploit every weakness, and never fight fair when survival is at stake. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Johnson sat in the control room of Mining Station Alpha, one of the largest asteroid processing facilities in the belt. For the past 3 months, the station had been secretly converted from a mining operation into a weapons platform. The mining equipment had been replaced with magnetic accelerators capable of launching projectiles at incredible speeds. "This is Alpha Station to all units," Johnson transmitted on the encrypted human frequency. "Targets are approaching optimal range. Prepare for Operation Hammerstrike." The Zephrians continued their advance, completely unaware that they were flying into the most carefully planned ambush in human history. Their sensors, designed to detect energy weapons and conventional missiles, could not identify the true nature of the threat surrounding them. Captain Maria Santos, commanding the stealth destroyer Phantom, watched the alien fleet through her passive sensors. Her ship was hidden in the shadow of a small moon, invisible to the enemy's detection systems. Like dozens of other human vessels, the Phantom had been built specifically for this kind of warfare. "All hands, this is the captain," Santos announced to her crew. "The enemy is approaching our engagement zone. Remember your training, and remember what we're fighting for. Every human life depends on what we do in the next few hours." The Zephrian fleet was now only 4 hours from Earth. "Commander." Zekthar felt the familiar excitement of approaching victory. Soon, another world would bow before the Empire's might. Soon, another species would learn the price of defying the Zephrian way. But in the cold darkness of space, humanity was about to teach the Empire a lesson that would echo through the galaxy. For generations to come, the Zephorians were about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one that appears weakest, and that the humans of Earth had spent their entire history preparing for this exact moment. The first sign that something was wrong came when Sensor Officer Vekvar noticed strange readings on his instruments. The Zephrian fleet was halfway between Mars and Earth when the asteroids around them began to move in ways that made no sense. "Commander." Zekthar called out, his voice uncertain. "I'm detecting unusual energy signatures throughout the asteroid field. The rocks are showing power readings that shouldn't be possible." Zekthar moved to the sensor station, his forearms working the controls. What he saw on the display made him pause. Dozens of asteroids that had appeared completely normal were now glowing with energy signatures. But before he could give any orders, the universe exploded around him. Incoming projectiles. They screamed as thousands of objects erupted from the hidden asteroid bases. But these were not the slow chemical rockets the Zephrians had expected. These were pieces of metal accelerated to incredible speeds by human magnetic launchers. The projectiles moved so fast that they appeared as streaks of light against the darkness of space. Each one was just a simple rod of dense metal, but at the speeds they were traveling, they hit with the force of nuclear weapons. The Zephrian point defense systems, designed to stop energy beams and normal missiles, were completely useless against these kinetic weapons. The first projectile hit the dreadnought, Dark Conquest, directly in its main engine section. The metal rod punched through the ship's shields as if they were made of paper, then tore through the hull like it was tissue. The ship's fusion reactor went critical, and the Dark Conquest vanished in a ball of nuclear fire. Evasive maneuvers. Zekthar shouted, but his fleet was too big and too slow to dodge the swarm of projectiles racing toward them. 2 more dreadnoughts exploded in the first few seconds of the attack. The mighty Zephrian Third Fleet, which had conquered dozens of worlds, was being torn apart by simple pieces of metal, but the humans were just getting started. From the outer planets came new contacts on the Zephrian sensors. Ships that had been hidden in the shadows of moons and gas giants suddenly revealed themselves. These were not the primitive vessels that Zephrian intelligence had reported. These were sleek, deadly warships that moved like hunting animals. Captain Ryan Walsh, hidden in his asteroid base, watched the destruction with grim satisfaction. All units, this is Hammer Base. First strike successful, initiating Phase 2. Show them what happens when you threaten Earth. The human fleet moved with a coordination that stunned the surviving Zephrians. Instead of the rigid formations that the Empire preferred, the human ships attacked like a pack of wolves. Each ship acted independently while maintaining perfect awareness of what the others were doing. They used the asteroids, the planets, and even the sun's gravity to their advantage. Commander Susan Blake, aboard the battleship Retribution, led a squadron of 6 destroyers in a coordinated attack on the Zephrian left flank. Her ships moved in a complex pattern that confused the alien targeting systems, while concentrating their fire on specific weak points. Target their shield generators, Blake ordered. Remember, we know exactly where to hit them. Spent months studying the wreckage of Zephrian scout ships. Every weakness had been found and cataloged. Every critical system had been mapped. The human attacks were surgical, targeting specific components to disable rather than destroy the alien ships. Commander Zekthar watched in horror. As his fleet was systematically taken apart, the humans didn't just attack randomly. They struck at communication arrays, weapon systems, and life support with terrifying precision. They kept the Zephrian ships alive but helpless, forcing the crews to watch as their comrades died around them. How do they know exactly where to strike? Zekthar demanded. How do they know our ship designed so well? His tactical officer Morkic worked frantically at his console. Commander, they're not just attacking us, they're studying us. Every shot is designed to test our defenses and learn our capabilities. The human attack continued with relentless efficiency. Captain Maria Santos, commanding the stealth destroyer Phantom, demonstrated another aspect of human warfare that the Zephrians had never encountered. Her ship appeared and disappeared like a ghost, striking without warning and vanishing before the aliens could respond. Ghost strike successful, Santos reported as her ship's missiles destroyed another Zephrian cruiser's main weapons. Moving to next target. These aliens have no idea how to fight against stealth attacks. The psychological impact of the human tactics was devastating. The Zephrian crews, used to honorable combat between visible fleets, were being terrorized by an enemy that struck from invisibility. Every shadow could hide a human ship. Every asteroid could be a weapons platform. Lieutenant Colonel Kevin Brooks, aboard the hunter-killer ship Nemesis, took the psychological warfare to another level. His crew had modified their weapons to target specific systems on the Zephrian ships. Instead of quick kills, they disabled life support and let the alien crews think about their situation. Target the next ship's oxygen recyclers, Brooks ordered coldly. Let them understand what they're dealing with while they slowly suffocate. The human communications that the Zephrians intercepted were even more terrifying than the attacks themselves.
Ow.
The humans weren't angry or excited. They talked about destroying alien ships with the same calm professionalism they might use to discuss repairing a machine. Bandit 7 is neutralized, came one transmission. Proceeding to Engagement Zone Delta, confirmed kill on target designation. Heavy 6 came another, no survivors detected. Moving to assist Falcon Squadron, the clinical efficiency of the human communications chilled the Zephrian survivors. These weren't warriors driven by emotion or glory. These were professional killers who had turned war into a science by the end of the first day. Zephrian Third Fleet had been reduced from 60 ships to 20. Commander Zekthar's own flagship was badly damaged, its weapons offline and its life support failing. Around him, the proud fleet of the Empire drifted as burning wreckage or fled in panic toward the edge of the system. Commander, his communications officer, reported. We're receiving surrender requests from 12 of our remaining ships. They want permission to withdraw from the battle. Zekthar stared at the tactical display. The human fleet had suffered minimal losses while destroying 2/3 of his force. The humans had revealed capabilities that no Zephrian strategist had imagined possible. They had turned the entire solar system into a weapon and used it with devastating effect. "All ships," Zekthar transmitted, "prepare for emergency withdrawal. We are retreating to the edge of the system." But as the surviving Zephrian ships began to flee, they discovered that the humans had one more surprise waiting for them. The human ships began to pursue, not to finish the battle quickly, to hunt down the survivors one by one. Captain Alex Turner, commanding the pursuit squadron, received his orders directly from Admiral Carter. "Nemesis Squadron, this is Earth. Command: you are authorized to pursue and eliminate fleeing enemy vessels. Standard protocol applies. Let one survive to carry the message." The most terrifying aspect of humanity's military doctrine was now revealed. They didn't just defeat their enemies, they made sure the defeat would be remembered. The retreating. The Zephrian ships found themselves hunted across multiple star systems by human vessels that seemed to appear from nowhere. The humans had somehow learned to track ships, even during faster-than-light travel. It was impossible according to every law of physics the Empire knew. Yet the human hunters kept appearing to destroy fleeing Zephrian vessels one by one. Commander Zekthar's flagship limped through hyperspace with failing systems and a dying crew. Behind him, he could hear the final transmissions of his fellow commanders as human ships found them in the void between stars and eliminated them. With ruthless efficiency, the mighty Zephrian Third Fleet was being reduced to a single ship, and Zekthar knew with growing horror that the humans were letting him escape on purpose. He was not a survivor of the battle. He was a messenger, chosen to carry the story of humanity's terrible power back to the Empire. The surviving Zephrian ships fled through hyperspace like wounded animals, but they soon discovered that escape was impossible. The humans had somehow learned to follow them even when they traveled faster than light. It was a technology that should not have existed, yet human hunter ships kept appearing to destroy the fleeing vessels one by one. Commander Zekthar sat in his damaged command chair aboard the Eternal Glory, listening to the death screams of his fellow commanders on the communication channels. His ship's life support was failing, and half his crew was already dead, but he could not stop to mourn them. The human hunters were still out there in the darkness, picking off the remnants of his once mighty fleet. Emergency transmission from the Void Walker, his communications officer reported, his voice shaking with fear. "Captain Vexahan is requesting immediate assistance. Human ships have found them in the Kepler system." Before Zekthar could respond, the transmission cut off in a burst of static. Another ship gone, another commander dead. The Third Fleet was being hunted to extinction by an enemy that fought like no civilization in the galaxy. Captain Alex Turner commanded the human pursuit squadron from his ship, the Resolute. His orders were simple but terrifying. Hunt down every fleeing Zephrian vessel and destroy them all except one. Survivor would carry the message back to the Empire that humanity was not to be threatened. "Target acquired," reported Lieutenant Danny Cooper from the sensor station. "Zephrian heavy cruiser, designation Tango 7. Ship appears to be the Night's Edge based on configuration." Turner studied the tactical display. The alien ship was trying to hide in the shadow of a dead planet, but human sensors could track the unique energy signature of Zephrian engines. There was nowhere in the galaxy that the aliens could hide. "Deploy the Phantom missiles," Turner ordered. "I want that ship disabled, not destroyed. Let the crew have time to think about what they've done before the end comes." The missiles launched from hidden tubes in the Resolute's hull. These were not standard weapons, but psychological warfare tools designed by human military scientists. They would disable the target ship's life support system slowly, giving the crew time to contemplate their fate. Aboard the Night's Edge, Captain Morthick watched his sensors in growing panic as the human missiles approached. His ship's defensive systems tried to intercept them, but the human weapons seemed to dance around his fire like living things. "They're targeting our oxygen recyclers," his engineer reported. "The missiles aren't trying to destroy us. They're trying to suffocate us slowly." The missiles struck with surgical precision, destroying the ship's ability to produce breathable air, but leaving everything else intact. The Zephrian crew would have several hours to think about their invasion of human space before the air ran out.
"This is Captain Morthick to any Empire vessels," he transmitted desperately.
"The humans are monsters. They don't kill cleanly. They make you suffer. They make you watch death coming slowly. Avoid these creatures at all costs. The transmission was intercepted by the remaining Zephrian ships, spreading fear through the survivors. This was not warfare as the Empire understood it. This was systematic terror designed to break the will of anyone who dared to threaten humanity. Lieutenant Colonel Kevin Brooks, commanding the hunter ship Nemesis, demonstrated another aspect of human psychological warfare. His ship had been tracking a group of 3 Zephrian destroyers for 2 days, staying just out of sensor range, but making sure the aliens knew they were being followed. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "the alien ships are showing signs of extreme stress. Their formation is breaking down, and they're making navigation errors." Brooks smiled coldly. "Good. Fear makes people stupid. Continue the pursuit, but don't attack yet. Let them exhaust themselves running from shadows." The 3 Zephrian ships were commanded by young officers who had never experienced real combat before. They had joined the invasion, expecting easy glory, but now they were being hunted through space by an enemy that seemed to know their every move. "Commander Telver," one of the ship captains transmitted, "our crews are near breaking point. Been running for 3 days without sleep. The humans are still following us." "I know," Telver replied, his voice showing the strain. "But we can't stop. Every time we try to rest, they get closer. It's like they can smell our fear." The psychological pressure was exactly what the humans intended. Brooks had studied the reports from previous human conflicts and knew that the enemy was often more valuable than a dead one. Fear spread through enemy ranks like a disease. It's breaking down unit cohesion and command authority. Commander Zekthar's ship continued its desperate flight towards Zephrian space, but even he was not safe from the human hunters. Captain Maria Santos, in her stealth destroyer Phantom, had been shadowing the Eternal Glory for days, staying just close enough to be detected occasionally. Sir Zekthar's sensor officer reported, "I'm picking up that ghost contact again. The human ship is still following us." Zekthar studied the sensor readings. The human vessel appeared on his screens for a few seconds, then vanished as if it had never existed. It was psychological warfare at its most effective, designed to remind him that the humans could destroy him any time they chose. "Why don't they just kill us?" his tactical officer asked. "They've had dozens of chances to finish us off." Zekthar was beginning to understand the terrible truth, because they want us to suffer. They want us to carry this fear back to the Empire. We're not survivors. We're messengers. The human hunt continued across 3 star systems. Each Zephrian ship that was caught faced a different fate, but all were designed to maximize psychological impact. Some ships had their engines disabled and were left drifting in space with failing life support. Others had their communication systems destroyed, but were otherwise left intact. Cutting them off from any hope of rescue. Captain Turner's squadron cornered the last group of 5 Zephrian ships near a neutron star. The alien vessels had hoped to use the star's radiation to hide their energy signatures, but human sensors were too advanced to be fooled by such simple tricks. "This is Captain Turner to Zephrian vessels," he transmitted. "You have entered human space and attacked our homeworld. Your fate has been decided. You will not leave this system alive." The Zephrian commander, Admiral Kolvex, tried to respond with defiance. "We are soldiers of the Empire. We demand honorable combat, not this cowardly hunting in the darkness." Turner's laugh was cold and without mercy. "Honor. You came to our system to destroy our world and enslave our people. You lost the right to honor when you threatened innocent civilians. This is what real war looks like." The human ships attacked with coordinated precision. But instead of quick kills, they disabled each Zephrian vessel systematically. They destroyed weapons first, then engines, then life support, leaving the crews to float helplessly in space while their ships slowly died around them. The psychological reports that the surviving Zephrians transmitted back to their empire painted a picture of humanity that terrified even the most hardened military commanders. These humans didn't just fight to win. They fought to ensure their enemies would never want to fight them again, Commander. Zekthar finally reached the edge of Zephrian space with his crippled ship and traumatized crew. Behind him, the entire Third Fleet had been reduced to scattered wreckage and radiation. 60 of the Empire's most powerful warships had been destroyed by an enemy that the Empire had dismissed as primitive. But the most terrifying part was yet to come. As Zekthar limped toward the nearest Empire base, he realized that the humans had let him live for a reason. He was carrying a message that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The message was simple: never threaten humanity again, or face the consequences. The humans had turned war into an art form, and they had just painted their masterpiece in Zephrian blood across the stars. Commander Zekthar's arrival at the Zephrian capital world of Morthok created chaos throughout the Empire. The once mighty Third Fleet, reduced to a single damaged ship and one broken survivor, told a story that shook the foundations of everything. The Zephrians believed about war and their own power. The medical bay, where Zekthar was being treated, was filled with the Empire's top military leaders. Admiral Vexith stood beside the bed where the traumatized commander lay, his forearms shaking uncontrollably and his 3 eyes darting nervously at every sound. "Tell us again, Vexith," demanded his voice tight with disbelief. "How many human ships attacked your fleet?" Zekthar's voice was barely a whisper. "I don't know. They were everywhere and nowhere. Our sensors would show empty space. Then suddenly they were among us, tearing our ships apart. They made rocks into weapons. They turned space itself into a trap." General Kexmal leaned forward, his massive frame casting shadows across the medical equipment. "You're telling us that 60 dreadnoughts were destroyed by a handful of primitive vessels?" "They weren't primitive," Zekthar shouted, sitting up in his bed with sudden energy. "That was our mistake. We thought they were weak because their technology looked simple, but they had turned simplicity into the ultimate weapon. Metal rods moving at incredible speeds, asteroids that were secretly missile platforms, ships that could disappear and reappear like ghosts." The debriefing room fell silent as Zekthar continued his account. The Empire's greatest military mind struggled to understand the tactics he described. Everything he said violated the accepted rules of civilized warfare. As the galaxy knew them, they didn't just want to defeat us, Zekthar continued, his voice growing stronger but more frightened. They wanted to break us completely. Every attack was designed to cause maximum fear. They could have killed me 100 times, but they let me watch as they systematically destroyed my entire fleet. Chief Military Strategist Kolvex activated a holographic display showing the battle zone. "According to your ship's logs, the humans lost less than 10% of their forces while destroying 98% of ours. How is such a thing possible?" Zekthar laughed bitterly, because they had been preparing for this war their entire lives. "Do you know what I learned about their world while I was fleeing through space? I had time to study their history, their culture, their evolution." He gestured weakly at the floating display. "They call their planet Earth, but they should call it hell. It's a death world where everything evolved to kill or be killed. The weather tries to destroy them with storms and ice. The ground shakes and splits open. The very air can become poison." The assembled military leaders exchanged uncertain glances. Zekthar continued, his voice taking on the tone of someone who had seen too much. "But the worst part wasn't their planet. It was what they did to each other. For thousands of years, they fought wars against their own kind. They invented weapons we don't even have names for. Chemical gases that melt your lungs, diseases that kill millions. Bombs that can destroy entire cities in one flash of light." Admiral Vexith remained skeptical. "One species on one world cannot threaten the entire empire. We control hundreds of systems. Can't they?" Zekthar's eyes focused with sudden clarity. "Let me tell you what else I learned. They had been studying us since the first day our scouts entered their system. They knew we were coming months before we arrived. They prepared their entire solar system as a weapon specifically designed to destroy us." He activated his personal datapad with trembling fingers. "Look at this. Our military history is an encyclopedia of destruction. They fought a war that killed 50 million of their own people and learned from it. They dropped nuclear bombs on their own cities to end another war. They are a species that has perfected the art of killing." The room erupted in nervous murmurs, but Zekthar pressed on. Every asteroid in their system was a potential missile. Every moon was a fortress. Every piece of space debris was turned into a weapon. They didn't just defend their world, made their entire star system into a death trap. General Mortex, the Empire's expert on planetary conquest, stepped forward. Even if all this is true, they are still confined to one system. They cannot threaten our core worlds. Zekthar's laugh was high and broken. That's what I thought too. But while I was running for my life, I detected something else. Human ships were following me not just to hunt me, but to study our hyperspace routes. They were learning how to reach our worlds. The commander's voice dropped to a terrified whisper. They let me live so I could bring you this warning. They are coming. Not to conquer, not to rule, but to make sure we never threaten them again.
Okay.
And when they come, they won't make the same mistakes we did. Admiral Vexith paced the room, his mind racing. What exactly are you saying, Commander? I'm saying that we have awakened something that should have been left alone. Humans are not like us. They are not like anyone in the galaxy. They have spent their entire evolution learning how to survive against impossible odds, and they are very, very good at it. 6 months later, Zekthar's predictions began to come true. The first human ships appeared at the edge of Zephrian space, but they didn't come as conquerors. They came as explorers, traders, and diplomats, offering friendship and technological exchange. Ambassador Robert Chen, leading the human diplomatic mission, was invited to address the Zephrian High Council. He stood before the assembled leaders with calm confidence, seemingly unaware of the fear his presence caused. "We come in peace," Chen said, his words translated for the alien audience. "The conflict between our peoples was unfortunate, but we believe it was based on misunderstanding. We offered trade agreements, cultural exchange, and mutual defense pacts. But every Zephrian who met the human diplomat could see the truth in his eyes. Behind the friendly words and peaceful gestures was the cold certainty of a species that had mastered war so completely that they no longer needed to fight. The humans were offering friendship, but everyone understood the alternative. Admiral Vexith, now the Empire's senior military advisor, met privately with Ambassador Chen. "Your offer of alliance is generous," he said carefully. "What assurance do we have that humanity will not seek revenge for our attack?" Chen smiled, and for a moment Vexith could see the predator that lurked beneath the diplomat's friendly exterior. "Admiral, humanity learned long ago that the best victory is the one that doesn't require fighting. We offer friendship because it serves our interests. But I think you understand what happens to those who threaten our interests." The Zephrian Empire, faced with the reality of human military capability, chose wisdom over pride. They became humanity's first and most loyal allies in the galaxy, spreading the word to every species. They encountered about the dangerous new power that had emerged from the soul. System Commander Zekthar lived the rest of his life as a teacher, an historian documenting humanity's rise to become the galaxy's most feared and respected peacekeepers. He established the Institute of Human Studies, where young Zephrian officers learned about the species that had humbled their mighty empire. "Remember this lesson," he would tell his students as they studied the tactical records of the Third Fleet's destruction. "The most dangerous enemy is not the one with the biggest guns or the most ships. The most dangerous enemy is the one who has learned to turn everything around them into a weapon." The humans, for their part, were content to let the legend grow. They continued their exploration of the galaxy, making new friends and trading partners wherever they went. But every species they encountered had already heard the story of what happened to the Zephrian Third Fleet. The galaxy had learned a simple truth: befriend the humans, trade with them, learn from them, but never, ever go to war with them, because if you do, only one of you will live to tell the tale. That survivor will spend the rest of their life warning others about the species from the small blue world that had turned war into an art form. In the end, humanity's greatest weapon was not their technology or their tactics. It was their reputation. The knowledge that they were willing and able to do whatever was necessary to protect their own had made them the most powerful force in the galaxy without firing another shot.